This is John Jones, a 26-year-old young man who killed himself by doing a stupid cave exploration, hanged into a narrow cave upside down where a normal human body can barely fit in. The Nutty Putty Cave Incident is a tragic story that revolves around John Jones, a 26-year-old medical student and experienced caver who became trapped in a narrow, uncharted passage of the Nutty Putty Cave in Utah, USA. This cave exploration was meant to be a fun family outing, but it turned into a devastating and heartbreaking situation that resulted in John's untimely death. He was a medical student, a devoted husband, and a father of one young daughter. He had always been captivated by the thrill of exploration, spending much of his youth crawling through Utah's winding cave systems. On November 24, 2009, during what was supposed to be a routine cave exploration with his brother and friends in Nutty Putty Cave, John made a fateful decision. In a tragic turn of events, he became trapped upside down in a narrow passage just 10 inches wide, his body wedged so tightly that he couldn't move. For nearly 28 agonizing hours, John remained stuck, desperately clinging to life while rescuers fought to save him. It was supposed to be just another adventure, a way to relive his youthful love of caving. But instead, he left behind a grieving wife, Emily, whom he had married just a few years earlier, and a 1-year-old daughter, Lizzie, who would grow up without ever truly knowing her father. What began as a family outing in celebration of Thanksgiving became a devastating reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the fragile line between adventure and tragedy. Nutty Putty Cave had a reputation for its tight, twisting passages, some of which were barely wide enough to allow a human body to squeeze through. It was known to be treacherous, even for experienced cavers. But John was not deterred. He saw it as a challenge, a chance to rekindle his love for exploration and share an adventure with his brother Josh and some friends. It was the evening of November 24, 2009, when John and his group arrived at Nutty Putty Cave. The night air was crisp, and the stars above provided a shimmering backdrop as they prepared their gear. John was excited, but also cautious. He knew the cave's reputation and had planned the route carefully. The plan was to explore the well-known areas of the cave and maybe try out some of the more challenging passages. At around 8 p.m., the group entered the cave. The entrance was a steep, narrow opening that led into a larger room known as the Big Slide. From there, they would make their way through several passages, including the birth canal, a notorious squeeze that required cavers to crawl on their bellies to get through. But John, confident in his abilities, led the way. The first part of the journey went smoothly. They maneuvered through the tight passageways with ease, their headlamps casting eerie shadows on the limestone walls. Laughter and chatter echoed softly off the stone as they moved deeper into the cave. For John, this was a return to something he loved dearly, a chance to share a piece of himself with his brother and friends. After navigating through some of the more familiar sections of Nutty Putty, John decided to explore an uncharted passage, hoping to find a new area of the cave. He believed he had found the way to the birth canal, a tight and narrow section that would be challenging but passable. He squeezed his 6-foot, 200-pound frame into the opening, a downward sloping tunnel that was barely wide enough for him to pass. The passage was tight, forcing him to push himself forward using his fingertips and the tips of his toes. As he inched forward, the tunnel became even narrower. He realized he might be in the wrong section of the cave. Instead of backing out, he decided to press on, hoping the passage would widen up ahead. It was a mistake that would soon become evident. He took a deep breath and wriggled further, feeling the cold, damp earth press against his chest and back. Suddenly, he felt his body shift into a downward incline. His arms were now pinned by his sides, and he could no longer move forward or backward. He had inadvertently slid headfirst into an incredibly tight, vertical fissure known later as the Bob's Push, an unmapped, deadly section of the cave that had not been explored before. John's position was awkward and dangerous. He was nearly upside down, his body at a sharp angle with his head below his feet, compressed into a space barely wider than the span of his shoulders. Realizing he was stuck, John called out to his brother Josh, who was nearby. His voice, though calm, carried a note of urgency. "I can't move. I think I'm stuck," he said. Josh, concerned, quickly crawled over to where John was. He could see only his brother's shoes and lower legs sticking out from the narrow passage. Josh tried to grab John's calves and pull him back, but John was wedged in too tightly. Every attempt to pull him out seemed to make things worse. The friction of the narrow passage pressed hard against John's chest, making it difficult for him to breathe. With each passing minute, John's situation grew more dire. Josh realized they needed help. He quickly exited the cave to call 911, and soon after, a rescue team was dispatched. Meanwhile, John was left in the cold, dark confines of the cave, his breathing becoming labored. He was hanging upside down, and the weight of his body was pressing on his lungs, causing difficulty in expanding them fully. John knew he was in serious trouble. He had been in tight spots before, but nothing like this. The minutes felt like hours, and his body began to tremble from the strain and fear. At around midnight, the first rescuers arrived. They were members of the Utah County Search and Rescue Team, experienced and well-equipped for cave rescues. The rescue team quickly assessed the situation. They realized that John's position head down in a tight vertical passage was extremely precarious. The risk of asphyxiation or cardiac arrest was high due to the pressure on his lungs and the restriction of blood flow to his brain. The rescuers attempted to use a pulley system to slowly and carefully pull John out of the tight crevice. However, the angle was difficult, and the narrow space made maneuvering nearly impossible. They managed to pull him out a few inches, but he quickly became stuck again. John was conscious and alert, but he was in considerable pain. He could barely breathe, and his circulation was becoming severely compromised. The rescuers tried to keep his spirits up, talking to him, asking about his family, and telling him he would be out soon. His father, who had arrived at the scene, also spoke to him, offering words of comfort and encouragement. Despite their efforts, the rescue was moving slowly. The narrowness of the passage prevented them from getting any equipment close enough to make a significant difference. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking, and John's condition was deteriorating. Hours passed, and rescuers rotated in and out of the cave, trying different methods to free John. They used drills to chip away at the rock, hoping to widen the passage, but progress was painfully slow. They knew that time was of the essence. John had been trapped for more than 12 hours, and his body was showing signs of severe stress. His voice was weakening, and his breathing was becoming more labored. The rescue team brought in a special pneumatic drill to break apart the rock around John's position, but they had to be extremely careful. One wrong move could cause the rocks to collapse, burying John alive. They tried to use air-powered tools to widen the passage, but it was difficult to get them into the tight space. Each minute stretched on as they fought against the clock, knowing John's body could not handle much more. Around 24 hours into the ordeal, they managed to pull John up a few feet using a rope and pulley system. Hope flickered among the rescuers. They believed they were close to getting him out. But suddenly, one of the pulleys failed, and John slipped back into the crevice. The jolt caused his position to worsen. He was now even more tightly wedged, and his body was at a sharper downward angle. By the evening of November 25th, nearly 28 hours since John had first become stuck, the situation was becoming increasingly dire. Medical professionals who had crawled into the cave to assist were monitoring John closely. They observed that his breathing was shallow and his vital signs were weak. He was drifting in and out of consciousness, his voice faint and filled with pain. The rescue team continued to chip away at the rock, trying desperately to free him, but it was clear that John's condition was critical. His body was experiencing the effects of suspension trauma where blood pools in the lower extremities, causing a lack of circulation to vital organs. Despite his pain, John remained as calm as he could. He spoke to his rescuers and family, expressing his love and asking them to keep fighting to get him out. By midnight, the medical team declared that John was unresponsive. Despite their best efforts, they could not reach him with intravenous fluids or oxygen. His heart rate began to slow, and after several attempts to revive him, he was pronounced dead at the scene. The cave, which had once been a source of joy and adventure for John, had become his tomb. John's death was a devastating blow to his family, friends, and the rescue team. Over 137 people had participated in the rescue effort, working tirelessly to try and save him. They had done everything they could, but in the end, the cave had won. The decision was made not to retrieve John's body, as it was too dangerous and could potentially risk more lives. The Nutty Putty Cave was permanently sealed with concrete, turning it into his final resting place. A memorial plaque was placed outside, commemorating John Jones, a young adventurer whose spirit of exploration ended in tragedy. The Nutty Putty Cave Incident serves as a somber reminder of the risks inherent in caving and other extreme sports. For John Jones, it was a final adventure that turned tragic, a story that has since become a cautionary tale for cavers around the world. It underscores the unpredictability of nature and the importance of preparation, caution, and respect for the underground realms that so many seek to explore. John's legacy lives on in the memories of his loved ones and in the lessons learned by those who venture into the depths of the earth. His story is one of courage, endurance, and the relentless pursuit of adventure, even in the face of the unknown. If you like this video and want to see more videos, documentaries, unknown facts about this world, then share and subscribe this channel. Also check our other videos, you would like those as well.